My coworkers are joking I'm pregnant when I'm not. The company I work for is really small and we tune into the same local radio station every day. The station has a tiny listener base and our song requests have become so frequent that my coworkers have got a good rapport with one of the show hosts. I've never emailed in or interacted with the host in question. I come in today after a week off and hear myself being congratulated on the radio on my pregnancy, which was made up by my coworkers. Allison, what the hell? Everyone laughed and I wasn't sure what to do but laugh along too. The host has apparently been doing this for a full week while I've been away, saying both my name and the company's. Beyond that, he sounded really earnest and genuinely happy, which is making me feel even worse. There is the occasional prank in the office, but they've always been harmless. This feels like a line has been crossed and I don't know what to do. We have monthly one-on-ones coming up and I'll be speaking to our manager, but I'm not sure what to do in the meantime. After I heard it on the radio, everyone made comments about my pretend pregnancy. I don't want to hear how caffeine is bad for the baby or planning the due date. I'm a woman in my mid-20s in 2019 and can't even believe I'm having to write this at all. My general response to not funny jokes is just to not laugh or look confused, but I can't take the thought of being publicly congratulated by a stranger. Tomorrow I'll be asking the next person who makes a joke to be the one to write in and reveal the truth, but I know this won't go down well. I'm the quietest person in the office and probably the most private, but it feels like such a bizarre thing to joke about that I don't even know what the funny part is meant to be. I don't want anyone to get formally disciplined for a one-off misjudgment, but I'm also not sure how to articulate why it's a misjudgment without ruining my relationships with anyone. Update 1. Firstly, thank you so much for publishing my letter and for your thoughtful response. I was intensely frustrated when I wrote to you and worried I was overreacting, but your response along with the insight and stories of your commentators proved exactly why pregnancy isn't something to joke about. Thankfully, I have a positive response. A few commentators wondered if I was the only woman on the team. Staggeringly, the team is mostly women. We're all around the same age, but I'm the only person who isn't vocal about staying childfree. I think this is why they didn't consider the prank to be a big deal, but every way I look at it just shows some terrible judgment. As we're a small company, the HR is split between our office manager, female, who was in on the prank, and our director, male, who wasn't. The director wasn't in the day after I heard the announcement, but I shut down any attempts to laugh about it with "Stop, I don't like this." The following day, I pulled my director aside and told him that A, I wasn't pregnant and B, the whole thing was problematic and needed to stop immediately. He was shocked that I hadn't been in on the prank and was very supportive. Not long after, he pulled the office manager aside for a chat and then asked if I could help him with an errand that took us both out of the office for a while. When we came back, everyone was very sheepish and the radio was turned right down. No one has apologized, so I don't know if they thought of me as a spoilsport, but I don't really care. A few people wondered if the radio presenter knew the pregnancy was fake, but I think he believed it was genuine. My coworkers have played the game of what crazy thing can we get him to say before, and I think I was just collateral damage this time around. One of my coworkers emailed him and he stopped all mentions of the prank right away. But, in a twist, the radio station is, almost, no more. A couple of weeks after all this went down, every live show stopped and it looks like it'll fold any day now. From what I've gathered, he's just a regular guy who did an afternoon show for fun. None of his shows have ever featured shock value or pranks, which is why the whole thing felt cruel. On the other hand, my coworkers do have a habit of taking things too far. Update 2. I was reading as I do every afternoon when one of the recommended posts catapulted me back into my past. I'm the reader who wrote to you about 6 years ago about my coworkers who wrote into a local radio station to pretending I was pregnant as a prank. I've been meaning to share an update for a while now, and this felt like a sign. In the years since, things got okay, worse and then much better. After the first post, I spoke to my director to put a stop to the joking around. No one apologized, acknowledged that they'd crossed a line, or even made eye contact for a while, but I was just grateful that the jokes were over. A few months later, my relationship unexpectedly fell apart, and a couple of weeks after that I found a channel on our internal messaging system that had been set up to talk about me behind my back. It had been running for months, predating the radio prank, and was absolutely a nail in the coffin. We also now had an external HR provision by this point, so I made a formal complaint against everyone involved. A coworker had been on the ropes for a while and they were let go not long after. I'm not sure how much the channel played a role in this, but it certainly didn't help. The others apologized to my face, which I was grateful for at the time. As some background, when I first started, the company was owned by two directors, a husband and wife. A couple of years into my tenure, One served the others with divorce papers and the business was squarely in the middle. But even before I started there were office norms that were only there to keep us in our lanes. We weren't really allowed to talk to one another other than on IM. Were made to take staggered lunches alone, had to sit with our screens facing outward so the boss could monitor what was on them, and so on. I found out later that my job only opened up because one director got drunk and threw a punch at a past employee on a work night out, prompting a few people to quit. When that director finally left, the other did try to open up communication, but things just ran too deep. I'm sure I contributed to this environment too, and I remember being deeply frustrated with nowhere for it all to go. I also don't remember exactly what the messages in the channel said, but I was so angry that it snapped me out of my post-breakup funk and made me realize that my workplace was crap and was not going to change. I searched for all the jobs I could find with a short list of prerequisites. They must have an active HR department, visible salary scales, and be based in an interesting part of the country. I applied for the one that was closing first, which turned into one of the best things I ever did. I said yes to an interview because I'd never been to this city, and at least if I didn't get the job I could spend a couple of hours in a museum I always wanted to visit. I interviewed in February 2020, got the job, and started my new role that April, just after the first COVID-19 lockdown hit in the UK. I moved to my new city about 5 years ago as restrictions were starting to lift, so as people were getting used to socializing again, there was me starting life again in my late 20s. I've since changed roles a few times but have been in the same organization, and I can honestly say things are a million times better. My job is infinitely more fulfilling, has scope to grow, and I'm strengthening skills that are niche enough to be interesting and broad enough that I'm not stuck in a corner. I'm also actively involved in our workplace union, so there's a perfect outlet to channel any injustices in a positive way. I'm not in touch with anyone in my old job. I wish them the best and hope everyone is successful and fulfilled in their own ways, but it took me far too long to realize it wasn't the place for me. The fact I didn't realize this after someone wrote to a radio station to pretend I was pregnant is beyond what I'd ever put up with now. I'm still embarrassed by the whole ordeal, but grateful I can look back on it as a bizarre story rather than a situation I'm still stuck in. I hope you guys like this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share and subscribe the channel Relationship Drama Stories.